my name is Notepad Anon, and I write games for fun. So what are we doing today? Well, today we're going to be working on Super SS Mortus, a game that we have been somewhat working on. It is a game jam game for a few game jams at this point. I think 3 in total. And generally speaking, I want to get it done. Entirely done today. I'd probably not, but I can definitely hope so. Or at least get most of what I need to get done. So what is this game actually? This game is a survival game about zombies and trying desperately to survive. The reason why it seems a little bit derivative is because it is actually for the 3 jams it's for. There we go. The 3 jams it's for is for the C&D jam, the cease and desist jam, which is about making a legally distinct product. It is for the apocalypse jam, and it is also for, I believe, a video game jam. And that video game jam and everything else combined, I decided to make a I can't believe it's not Project Zomboid game, because I've been having a lot of fun with Project Zomboid because I find that game very fun. Especially with my friend, as we've been playing together and dying horribly because we're not very good at it. But generally speaking, I've been plugging away at it gradually. It's due by the end of the month. I got 16 days. Like right up, just knowing this full on. I know I have 16 days because that's when the apocalypse jam kind of ends. And so I kind of need to get it done within 2 weeks, which generally speaking, I'm feeling pretty good. Oh no, people are pinging me. Why do you people pinging me? Jesus. But from last time, actually, a lot of things got done. Now, notably, if I go here and we'll just oh god, click the wrong button. We'll just exile you over here for now. So from last time, I got a majority of what I would like to call the core of the game done. It is a D100 game. I just thought that would probably be the best way of doing things. Survivor creation, we've got all this done. I don't have any of the artwork in yet, but I kind of want to just do that last because it won't be too difficult because I'm going to try to make it like this fake ASCII art. We got some fairly standard attributes. I'm like, all right, it's looking pretty standard right now. We got some of our derived attributes. I did add in the combat instincts for range and melee to be kind of your base combat styles because I was noticing combat was being a little bit wiggity wonk. Hence, we also have things like Survivor Sense, which is your natural ability to pick through trash, scavenge for supplies, forage food, and other useful survival instincts. Why I added that as a kind of like its own thing, because I didn't want people just to like constantly roll like insight or constantly roll cunning. I wanted them to be used a little bit more consistently. Same goes for things like Terror Threshold, which Terror Threshold is pretty much the more shit that the more things that are around you that you feel a little bit worried about being around you, the more you're generally freaking the fuck out, and you really shouldn't be. So we have all the values. Values got reworked a smidge. Not much though. Most of the things like Vile Blood, which is the infection, which is like, hey, but generally speaking, the idea is when it hits 80, it's not bad. You should get a looked at though. At 60, you have a complication, and at 20%, the effects are dire. You take the terminal complication, and then you take the final complication. Usually, the final complication is death, or at least failing miserably at life. For example, we'll take a standard one, which is going to be hunger. For example, hunger at basic complication at 60%, you get a negative 1% to all your actions under 2% per 2% under 60. So if you are at 58%, that means you're taking a negative 1% to all your actions. If you are 40, you are now taking a negative 20% to all of your actions. Actually, no, it would be 40 would be 20, so you'd be taking negative 10% to all your actions. So don't go hungry, because going hungry is going to kill you, because at 20%, not only do you get all the problems, you also get a pretty hefty penalty to your body, your coordination, and your guts, which pretty much makes you a worse fighter, and at 0% you die. And then we go on to wounds. Wounds got a little bit of an update from last time. The main thing about wounds is that they are a little bit more detailed in how I wanted to do them. Effectively, both of the damage tiers, which is going to be blunt and penetrating, fall into having no damage, light damage, heavy damage, serious damage, deep damage, terminal damage, and destroyed. Which it's kind of the tiers of actual damage you've taken from maximum to nothing. So roughly for blunt damage, it's no damage, light bruising, heavy bruising, crack, break, shatter, and mulched. If it's completely destroyed, it's just mulched, like it's just a horrifying abomination, whatever the fuck that is. While for penetrating, it's cut, slash, lacerated, gouged, and severed. When a limb is destroyed or any other situation occurs, it's considered to have loss of function, unable to be used properly. Loss of function can occur when too much damage is being subject to harsh conditions. Effectively, if you ever lose function in a body part, then you can't use that body part anymore. Some are pretty standard. Hey, if I get my brain destroyed, if I get my head destroyed, I'm going to die. Hey, if my neck gets slashed open, I'm going to die. If my chest gets completely destroyed, I'm going to die. Then you have things such as the groin, which is for every tier of damage, the survivor takes negative 10% to their mood. If you get kicked in the dick enough times, you're not going to have a good time. Should reach loss of function with blunt damage, is knocked unconscious from the pain, losing reproductive functions. Pretty much like your gonads or anything else there is no longer going to be having fun. Like everything is broken there. Like you are not having fun. With penetrating, you'll deal 75 damage to gut and have loss of function in both legs, as pretty much everything has been, unfortunately, generally speaking, spilling out. That shouldn't be spilling out, which is most likely going to be lethal if it's 75 damage to something out of 80, mostly because if you've taken any damage to your gut, you're probably going to be dead. Then we have things like upper arms, which the entire idea is that if your upper arm goes, you're going to lose your lower and your hand. If your lower arm goes, you're going to lose your hand. But the grandiose issue is that if you have an agony threshold, if your upper arm takes 25 damage, your lower arm takes 50 damage, and your hand takes 25 damage, generally speaking, you're going to still have your hand in place. Your hand, actually, you're not going to have your hand anymore. It's going to be just broken to all hell. But you're still going to have your arm and upper arm and lower arm. However, you're going to be in so much agony and so much pain that the entire arm ceases to function. This is mostly to say, like, if you take like severe damage to your like lower arm and upper arm, you're going to lose function in your hand, as it's just you are unable to move it because you are in that much pain. And that also applies to your leg and as well as your body. If you take 150 damage across your chest, gut, and groin, you're dead. Doesn't matter how, it's just you have taken too much damage and you're just going to die because you're just going to bleed to death, or things are going to quickly exit your body that they shouldn't be. I also have a note here on the idea behind bleeding and drakes. Pretty much anytime you take heavy damage or take heavy penetrating damage or serious blunt damage, which is the idea is that you have been pierced or you have taken I think it's crack. You know, it's a problem. If you get slashed open, you'll begin to bleed. You reduce blood rot. Your blood loss is going to start increasing pretty quickly. Lacerate, it's going to get worse. Gouge is going to be real worse. And if it's severed, you're going to start hemorrhaging. Like you have about a minute until you're going to die. When you reach a crack or break, you can't really, cannot rise above that until time has passed. Pretty much, if someone hits you in your leg and you crack it, it's going to take time. Roughly, it's going to be about 1d3 weeks for cracks, 4d6 weeks for about a foot, or 8d6 weeks for kind of breaking something like that. Serious activity increases time by 1d2 weeks each day it is undertaken. So pretty much if you're traveling around and you're kind of doing strenuous activity, it's going to take longer for you to heal. I also have a note on prosthetics. Usually the idea behind prosthetics is durability instead of damage tiers. Once it's 0, it snaps, it's break, it's rendered useless. Just, it's fucked. Skills are pretty standard, which you're going to have 25 skills, and pretty much every skill you put into is a 5% to that bonus. So if you have 5 into melee, you're going to get a 25% bonus to melee. Why does this work this way? Because you're going to be taking some nasty penalties elsewhere. And generally speaking, I want the idea being like, if you are like really skilled at medicine, like if you have like a good deal of things in medicine, I want you to be able to feel like you're a good medical professional. Like, I want you guys to feel like you are like competent human beings at specific things. But if you've never shot a gun before, your marksman's probably not going to be very high. You might get like 1 because you took some gun range, which 5% isn't really going to be that much. Usually it's going to be about 3-4 points in. Once you get familiar, even knowledgeable, that's when you're just going to start hitting it. And since you only have 25 points to distribute, you can't get really high in everything. I think at most with that, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11. So you can roughly hit 2 in everything, about 10% in everything, with some leftover points to hit 3 with. But generally speaking, dump everything into like a few points and a combat stat. Don't forget to take a combat stat. Please take that. I'm begging you. Let's see. Then we have time. Time works exactly as you think because it's time. And the idea is that it's kind of like a tick. And each tick of something occurring is sometime it pretty much allows time to pass more consistently, because there are some things which is like in an hour you're going to do this, in a day it's going to be this. Hence why we have moments, handful of seconds. Moments are a traditional turnaround structure with simple actions being able to take place. And the minutes, 60 minutes in an hour, 10 moments in a minute, hour, then we have a day. And pretty much the idea is like, these are like what you're actually going to be kind of keeping track of, like on the ground. During the days, if you're tracking days, that's kind of like you're at a bird's eye perspective. Like, hey, 3 days have gone by virtue of you just looting the shit out of this place. Don't forget to reduce all your attributes or that, unless you're like pretty consistently getting water and getting food and stuff. Then obviously a week, and then we have a month, season, and year. These are for like long like time skips, once you get a very certain amount of thing. We also have major notes on times. Roughly speaking, you will die of bile blood if everything is good. You're going to be gaining. You're going to be dead in 10 days because it's going to reduce at a rate of 10% a day. This can, however, go up to 27%, resulting in a negative 25% decrease. I should actually put that. Decrease if the survivor is starving, miserable, thirsty, miserable. Pretty much, if you're in a shitty mood or you're not doing too hot, bile blood's going to kill you faster. Blood loss, it's per minute. Dehydration, I actually had to do a little bit of calculations, and the roughly speaking is that your thirst value is going to reduce at 1% an hour. At around day 3 of no water, the character will be around 10%, because you're going to be taking about 90-ish, which is you're not going to have a very good time. Yeah. Roughly speaking, it's going to take you about 3 days to die if you have no water. Hunger, it's 0.25% of your hunger value per hour, increasing this to 0.5 if thirst is at 80%, 1% of thirst is there, and 2% of thirst is 20%. Generally speaking, the idea here is that if you are suffering from thirst, you're going to get hungrier faster. So if you're dehydrated, you're going to pretty much die faster, because dehydration is very important. Hydration is very important, kids. Remember that. Mood, roughly, it's going to increase about 3% a day. Like, the idea is that mood is like one of the few things that constantly ticks up rather than ticking down. Initially, I wanted you kind of even out at 80 because you're not super happy, but I'm like, nah, that's not really a good idea. So I decided to say, you're ticking up to 100%. So, but you can lose mood very quickly. Mood might drop by 20% in like one bad encounter, or it could drop to like 15% if you are in like really shitty moments. But you need to increase that relatively quickly. Sickness is tracked per day until it reaches 60%. Then it's tracked per hour, which the concept is that you don't really need to worry about sickness until it starts getting bad. Once it hits kind of that serious level, that's when you start suffering from it pretty badly, and that's when things are going to go bad. So if you're at like a 3% sickness a day kind of thing, you got a few days. You got about 10 days, 10, 12 days before you really need to worry about it. But after those 12 days, you're going to start worrying about it pretty bad, because you're going to be rapidly dwindling at that point. Temperature, that hourly. Incredibly severe cases, I said a minute to minute, but that's like, we are in the middle of the desert and we are currently dying. Or, hey, we are in the middle of a snowstorm and we are dying. That's what that's all about. And wounds, roughly like kind of like how it's going, how it's working there. You're going to be recovering slowly. You recover blunt faster than you recover piercing damage. Because turns out getting stabbed is a lot worse than getting just hit with like a bat or something. But the problem is, piercing is going to kill you. But someone who pierces you with a knife, once you kind of get that stitched up, and if you're not lethal, you're going to be healed up in about a week or two. Like you're going to be all right if you get stitched up. It's serious right now. The problem with blunt is that if you break your leg, if someone breaks your fucking leg, your leg is broken. Like you were at a severe disadvantage for months. Like you are possibly out for a month or two, which could be very bad unless you kind of, grit your teeth and start hiking, or you have a car or something allowing you to travel a little bit more consistently. So blunt is if you want to keep someone alive but really fuck their day up. Stabbing is when you want to kill someone. Getting shot is penetrating damage for context sake. Don't get shot, kids. Rule number 1, do not get shot. Rule number 2 of the apocalypse, do not get stabbed. Rule number 3, do not get hurt. Because getting hurt is a good way to die. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, where we talk about how not to die in the apocalypse of not getting hurt. My next one, I will discuss that food is good. And roughly that's it. That's what I've been working on. I did a little bit on kind of how traveling works. Traveling, the idea is, everything's broken down into districts. I kind of have a good idea here. Wick Hills, this isn't actually how Wick Hills looks. I didn't have my map on me. But the entire idea is that moving from district to district is going to take time. And I did here for each district is about a day. Kind of like just walking down the road is going to take, like walking from Baker to Oak Hall, just walking is going to take you about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to take you about 5 days of just walking, because it's shitty terrain, it's hilly, it's nightmare, it's not designed for walking. That's kind of the idea. And inside of like a location, you might have major location. Each district is important. That's one of the ideas, because I want this game to be kind of set wherever you want it to be. It's like, hey, we're set in like this massive open area. Like we're set in like Montana, like the entire state of Montana. Or it can be like, hello phone. Or we are set in like a single little space of time. That's never a good song when my mother asks, how do you order Funko Pops? Funko store? Funko store? I don't know. I think my mother found a Funko Pop she wants. God help us all. But yeah. like I kind of wanted to be a little bit however you want to handle it. Like if you want to set this in a city, go for it. You can totally set this like just in I can't believe it's not Raccoon City, just as long as you break up the districts. I did it like this, like a grid. If you want to break it up by like a neighborhood and make it a little bit more imprecise, I think is a good word. Oh, she found a Ouija board. Funko Pop. Oh, sweet mother of God. Oh, sweet mother of God. Pain, Pecco. My mother's a Funko Pop appreciator. God help us all. This isn't how it was supposed to go, boys. So let's see. So what I was working on before I started streaming was this, actually. This is the scavenging system. Which the base idea is that like the base idea is that you can, if you go to a district, it's going to have some items and stuff that you can just loot. And certain ideas are going, like certain locations are going to have a little bit more. I was working with my friend who plays a lot of Zomboid. I'm like, oh, I'll just use their system, and that didn't quite work. Their system isn't as robust as I thought it was going to be. And yeah. Let's see. So generally speaking, like what I was thinking of is that, roughly speaking, broad locations are like, I want to go to a dense urban area, which is just really dense, full of houses and such. Your road stride, punctuated by roadside attractions or loose bottles from littering drivers. Like fields and other things, overgrown and wild, full of life, but dangerous as well. And then I was going to do forest, then deep forest, and then kind of... I was kind of debating with myself of like how to do it. How am I doing? I'm doing pretty all right, personally. I'm doing pretty okay. I kind of recovered from my illness. I am alive and well. Now I'm just working on a game about illnesses because that's how I operate. Let's see. So woods as far as not terribly dense, and occasional cabins and shacks can be found in the foliage. So we want to do deep, dark, oppressive. These woods are not home to... actually, these woods are home... The primal spirit of the land. Land and not much else. So let's see, like roughly speaking, broad locations includes, we can do that. Scavengerinos, we want to do heading, it would be heading 2, I believe. No, it would be heading 3. No, we'll do heading 2 because heading 2 is the correct one. We go Control Shift 8. Select everything here. Select everything here. Add-ons or paragraph A to Z. It doesn't help that a majority of the games that I'm kind of like consulting on this one are very much take place in like forest lands or just like very standard places. It's not like, let's go to the desert, let's go to the tundra. No, that's not really a thing. So I'm kind of working on nothing here. So let's see. forgot about dense urban. You want to do that. Control Shift 8. Roughly speaking. Alright, so when the survivors begin scavenging for supplies, they will roll their survivor. What did I end up calling it? I called it something stupid because it's me. Their survivor sense. They will roll their survivor sense to see what they actually acquire. Penalties as much as negative penalties, actually bonuses and penalties. Ranging from plus 30 to negative 30 should accompany locations with ample supplies. Ample supplies or not, or empty shell, or empty nothingness. Should a survivor be successful, they will find supplies. They will find supplies in their local area. There we go. Is this a survivalist game or something? Yeah, to a degree. It's effectively the game is for 3 game jams at this point. An apocalypse jam, a C&D jam, cease and desist, and a video game jam. So I kind of decided just to combine them all together to kind of make a zombie apocalypse game based off, you could say, I don't know how you would call them, roguelikes, rogue sims, of things like CDDA and Project Zomboid, with the idea being that you are trying to survive in a very hostile place, and you probably won't. Hence, the name of the game is Superesses Mortus, which is Survive the Dead, and finally, with the subtitle of This is the story of how you died, which is actually how Project Zomboid opens up. This is the story of how you died. Which I kind of wanted to get across as the idea of like, this is a very lethal game, and like one bad hit can really, I want the idea of like one bad encounter can really fuck your day up. Like you are not having a good day. Hence why I am deliberately putting in like the first thing you see for like the values is the actual infection. If you get infected, you have 2 options, which is amputate the infected limb within an hour, or you can try to delay the effects by blood transfusion, raw meat, or immunotherapy. Those are your 3 options, but you're pretty much fucked if you get infected. So try to get bit in the hand, because you don't need a hand. Oh, I get one of the... Yeah, I don't know like what you would even call it necessarily. I've always wondered what you would call those kinds of games. Like, part of me, I would call them like survival games, I guess, but they kind of, each of them have their like it's a very unique kind of game. One I actually quite enjoy. Goodbye talking about games. Let's see. Let's see. Should a survivor be successful, they will find supplies in their local area. Find supplies in the local area. If they fail, they come up with how do I want to work this? Actually, with half of what they could find. Actually, no. If they fail, they will come up come up with minimal or no supplies. Kind of just the idea of like this place has something, like you're gonna find something. It's impossible for you to not find something. You're just not gonna actually find anything good. It's like this isn't actually very useful. It's like let's like scavenge the grocery store. Like what can we find in here? If you succeed, you can find some good stuff and you can start throwing it in your bag. If you fail, you're still gonna find food, but it's like you're looking in the meat section, and you're like none of this is good. Like literally nothing here is remotely valuable. Mostly along the lines of you filtering out the blood. Most of you with filtering out your own blood. Because the idea of bio blood is that it's like a blood disease. That's kind of how I'm doing the zombie infection, which is it's a blood disease which is slowly kind of circulating through your veins, and you can delay it with blood transfusions by virtue of just replacing the bile blood with good blood. But eventually, you're gonna succumb to it if it gets actually into your system too much. However, the big thing with bile blood is that the worse it gets, the stronger you get. You're actually a pretty tough guy by the end of it. The only problem is you're going to turn into a ravenous monster probably within the next few days. So it's kind of like, how do we do with this? Or you can just eat raw meat. Just eat, like, if you murder something, just start eating meat. Just start eating people. That'll delay it. Zombification. Fun for the whole family. So if they fail, they'll come up with minimal or no supplies. Actually, I know what we're gonna do. Densely packed. Dense loot locations. Dense loot locations. Actually, each when in an area there is a density of supplies and a what would you type of supplies? There's a density and type of supplies, and supplies available up to a certain amount when roll up to a certain amount. Actually, okay. For example, actually, the density represents how much stuff is present in the area of being present in the area. While the type of supplies is what can be readily found. Actually, it's the density, value, and type. So density, stuff is in the area. Type is what's readily found. The value is the type of. No. Okay. So we want, because pretty much the idea, what I want it to be is like, fundamentally speaking, there is 9d10 worth of food here, and 2d10 and 2d4 worth of, like, how do I want to word this? Just supplies. Actually, we'll call it, like building supplies. Actually, I'll call it just supplies. See what they actually require. Just loot in the local area. If they fail to come up with minimal or no goods. So the idea would be like, if you were successful, so you maybe say like, okay, you can select 3. While if you fail, you may only get like 1. So it could be like, okay, I'm going to take 2d10 worth of just food supplies in the area, and 1d4 worth of just raw supplies. I'm going to roll those and see what I can actually find that's valuable. And sometimes you're going to come up with some good stuff. You know, someone's going to like go there and be like, found a bunch of stuff, let's sort through it, and you sort through it, and it's shit. It's fucking useless. They things that just do not work. It's like, wow, okay, like rotten food. And someone who's like, I don't really find anything much, but you find some actually like decent stuff. That's kind of the idea in my head. I don't think it's gonna be flawless, but so they fail, they come up with minimal or no goods. When in an area there is we'll call it a density value, and let's say a density value and type of supplies. Density represents let's see, the potential amount of goods in the area from a cursory examination. From cursory examination, while value representing the quality of the supplies, and finally the type of scavenge. Finally, the type of goods worth finding. The type of goods. Density. Density is a number of dice, while the number of dice value is a die size. While type is broken down into. So actually, let me just do this correctly. So we have to do perishable food. We'll do perishable food. Actually, no, it's we'll do raw food. How do I want to word this? It's pretty much like soup cans. If you wouldn't be prepared, it would be manufactured, processed. That's how I want to do processed food. So raw food, processed food. No, you don't want to do raw, because raw food can go bad. Because I want the idea of like, you might enter a city early on that's going to take you, like, you may be able to like loot a house or two and you're going to be able to find some stuff, but it's going to take you time. You're going through everything, you're upturning shit to try to find good raw goods and supplies, while sometimes you may not be able to find much. So raw food, processed food. Yeah, I think we can do that, because most of the time you're just going to find raw food. And that's like, here is an apple. You can eat raw food. Actually, no, raw food, which is going to be like, you can't really eat raw food. You have to prepare that. Processed food is shit like soup and kind of like canned goods. Those don't really go bad. Perishables. Perishable food. Anyway, I guess we could do condiment. Oh, condiment. That's a little excessive. So that'll be our basic food type, and then we have building supplies, boards, planks, boards, nails, shit like that. Equipment. So we do building supplies. We would need mechanic supplies. Shit like car parts. Valuable, but not necessarily like. Actually, fabrics. What would be some other things? So building, mechanic, fabrics. Household supplies. Cleaning, like, household supplies is useless. However, it's also incredibly valuable, and by just virtue of just having something that you don't know you don't need until you need it. I'm trying to think of other things that would be valuable by just virtue of having. Actually, we can do wooden supplies. Wooden supplies, mechanic supplies, metallic supplies, fabrics. Oh, medical supply and medicals. Medicals are important. Let's do Project Zomboid. Actually, items. We just want to do items. Look at all the items. So let's see. Materials, miscellaneous, equipment. I'm trying to think of like what would like. I'm trying to think of like what would like household supplies. It's pretty standard. Health and safety, light source, survival. We don't really need to worry about that. Stationary. Actually, what we can do is wooden supplies, mechanic. What we can do is survival supplies. Survival supplies would be like sticks, stones, and other bullshit that's like not actually that useful. Like raw, like doing it raw, not actually that useful. However, it will be the difference between. Actually, we can do electronic supplies. Actually, then what we can do with melee, we can do melee weapons. And then we can do ranged weapons. And the idea would be like you can buy these effectively. Like you're rolling for a number of points to just be able to like grab some like random shit over here. Rolling poorly there, you might be able to find like a few. You may be able to find like bullets. Like that's it pretty much. Like, oh wow, look everybody, I found a case of 9mm. Like, wow, that's great. We don't have a 9mm gun, but we definitely have that. So let's see. Density represents potential amount of goods in the area. Values die size. Well, is broken down into raw food, edible, but not tasty food, processed, edible. Actually, perfectly edible. Perfectly edible and hermetically sealed. Which, fun fact, that's what most canned products are, and that's why they last for so long, is because they are hermetically sealed. And anytime you notice something isn't hermetically sealed, return that shit immediately, because you will get botulism if you don't. Perishable food, edible if processed. interval of processed, will rot within a few days without being frozen or kept properly. If you have a hunk of meat, don't just leave it out on the fucking counter. It's gonna go bad quickly. It's going to go bad very quickly. Keep it in a freezer. Keep it in packed with ice or something. Like, you can keep it out for like a bit. Try not to keep it out for like a day or two. That's kind of the idea behind perishable food. It's like, perishable food is like, hey, I found a carton of milk. This is good. Milk is good. You can drink milk. Don't leave milk out, though. Like, it's going to go bad if you do that. Wooden supplies, wooden gear, wooden supplies, actually wood goods and supplies, car parts and other mechanical tools, fabrics, different kinds of fabrics, linens, denim. And actually, I could probably put this under the idea of clothing as well. Like, you just found clothing. Household supplies, necessary if often forgotten. Forgotten niceties. Metallic supplies, metal goods and supplies. Having some metal sheets is important. That's what that is. You may not get actually a lot of metallic supplies because metals are kind of valuable, like medicals, bandages, needles, and other medical goods. Which is, again, like, how I plan on doing this is, like, most things are going to be kind of vague. They're going to be just, like, you have wooden supplies, you have mechanic supplies. But, like, with, like, medicals, you can be like, well, you have 10 medicals on you. You know, like, you found 10 medical goods. What are, like, roughly speaking, the GM, and what I'm going to put a side note, which is, like, saying the GM can either kind of, like, state what they are. Like, these are bandages. Or these are antibiotics, these are like pills or things like that. Or you can kind of use the Schrodinger's, it's kind of the Schrodinger supplies. You have 5 points of medicals. I want to sub out my 5 points of medicals for this. Like, I'm going to sub that out for like a bandage so I can wrap myself up real fast. Or I want to sub out this for like needles and supplies and things like that, just to stitch myself up. It's shit like that. Doesn't seem very like, wow, that doesn't seem very realistic. That's kind of not the point. The point is mostly the survival aspect and kind of managing these resources, because you don't actually have that much supplies. That's one of the big ideas I want to get across. You don't have enough room to stick everything in. Survival supplies, berries, twigs, and other natural survival goods. Electronic supplies, electronic bits, bobs, and wires. And most of the time, how I plan on doing this is the idea of it's like I see in a lot of games, which is the idea of an engine, of building an engine, which is to say, process, which is like raw food plus raw food equals prepared food. Prepared food is actually good for you and you should eat it. But like, maybe like raw food plus fire equal prepared food. But that's like, again, that's something you need. You need some fire. How are you going to get fire? It's an engine. But it's like, let's say I want to reinforce a door. It might be wood supply, it might be wood supplies times 4 for, equal barricade, barricade level 1, barricade 1. Or it could be just metal supplies equal barricade 1. So kind of that idea of like, You want to build up, like, what do you use? Wood supplies can be used for one thing, metal supplies can obviously be used for others. Kind of vague, but it's in there for a reason. Like, it's like I could like really detailed go over everything, but it's like, it's still a game jam. Let's see. Tools and equip. Good. Get to bludgeoning, stabbing, or generally making a mess of someone. Tools and guns and ammo. Actually, guns, bows, crossbows, and throwing weapons, as well as their ammo. Which I wanted to feel important, where it's like when you walk into, once you go into like the gun store, I don't want you to roll and be like, well, I got no weapons or anything. No, I want it to be like, yeah, you can clearly see like there are guns around. Let's see, what kind of guns you actually find. And you might, again, the second you establish something, let it like be real. Like, there is a hunting rifle in there. Like, cool, I want to get the fucking hunting rifle. Try to crowbar that thing open and not trip all the alarms in the next, in the largest vicinity possible, pissing everybody off, including every zombie who now wants to eat your goddamn face. Let's see. In an area, there's a remember, kids, we don't want to get our faces eaten off. No, we want to do that add-on sort of paragraph A to Z. Do that add-on sort of paragraph A to Z. I'm just doing this for sake of completeness. Okay. Let's see. Represents the quality. That's how I'll type this broken down into. When a survivor succeeds at a check, they are able to take their that be it. Actually, cunning plus insight tens value in actually, no, that's a lot. That could be like upwards of 6. Maybe just insight. No. Actually, when a survivor succeeds at a check, they are able to take up to because pretty much what I want to be the idea is like, if there are a certain amount of stuff, you can take a certain amount of dice. Actually, okay. Here's what we can do. When survivor succeeds at the survivor sense check, they may take up to their cunning tens value in dice and tens, and their cunning tens value +1 in dice from the value +1 dice from the scavenging pool. Survivors who fail. Actually, no. Fuck. How do I want to do this? So, pretty much, if there was 15 dice, I want someone to be able to take like a good amount of dice. Maybe like to actually. Okay, here's what we can do. There's 1 to 3 dice. 1 to 3 dice. It's actually 1 to 3 supply density. 1 to 3 supply density, you're going to be able to take, success. Success takes we'll say up to 3. Failures take nothing. 4 to 6. Oh, that's not a good sign. You still streaming? Yes, we are. Nope. Oh. Oh no. Calm down. Calm down. Oh geez. Oh. Oh no. Maybe it's time to switch the music up a little bit. Yeah, oh no. Calm down. Calm down, buddy. Calm down, stream. What's going on, buddy? What's going on? Oh, that's not a good sign. I see that trying to connect right there. Uh, Everything says I have internet access, and I'm still streaming technically. According to this, anyway, I am still streaming. Oh. Oh no. Okie dokie then. I guess I will just continue in here. So 4 to 6 supply density. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Density. Which is going to be success is going to take 4 dice. Failure is going to take 1. I am monitoring like this thing right down here. So let's see, 7 to it'd be 7, 8, 9, 7 to 9 supply density, which is going to be success. 5, failure 2. And then 10 to 12 supply density. Failure 3. And then it would be pretty much, we will do 15 supply density. Failure. Force. Okay. So the idea is that you're always kind of getting more. So if you have a high supply like overall supply density, you're going to end up. But if you have a low supply density, unless I can probably reduce this down a little bit, do something like 5, 6. So you won't be you're going to be able if there's very little actual supplies in the area, if you succeed, you're going to be able to actually get something. If you don't succeed, you're not going to be able to get anything. Because guess what? There just isn't enough supplies around. Oh god.